Hello, it's 9 p.m. in Djibouti. It's time to English New Edition. For tonight's headlines, we have the President of the Republic has returned to the countries after 2 working missions abroad. The international scene, socialists in the lead but without absolute majority in Spain. Welcome to our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margele, has returned today, Mondays, in the middle of the afternoon. The country at the end of a double missions of work abroad, which successfully drove to Cairo in Egypt and to Beijing in China. The first stops on his work trip abroad, he took part in an extraordinary summit of the African Union dedicated to Sudan. This was a meeting aimed at the leaders of the Black Continent to define the modalities of aid support and support to be provided to Sudan. The scene of a political crisis for several weeks. In Beijing, China, the second leg of his work trip abroad, President Gele took part in the second International Forum on World Trade in Belt and Road. The concept of Belt and Road is global systems of economic and commercial cooperation. It unfolds daily in the forums of transcontinental route of business and economic exchanges. It is based on the principles of win-win partnership for all the member states, including, in addition to China, countries for Asia, Africa, and Europe. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margele, was received morning by his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping at the Grand Palace. The head of state was at the head of a large delegation, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, the Minister of Economy and Finance, as well as the President of Ports Authority and Free Zone, the Director of DMP Port, as well as other senior officials. China is willing to work with Djibouti to continually promote the bilateral strategic partnership, said Xi Jinping, emphasizing the joint constructions of Belt and Road in a speech during a bilateral meeting between the two delegations. China will continue to support Djibouti's economic and social development, exchange development experiences, and encourage competitive Chinese enterprises to invest and expand their business in Djibouti, he said. Mr. Gell explained that the Belt and Road initiative was unique, would promote international development cooperation and contribute to building an interconnected and better world. At the end of the meeting, the two leaders attended a signing ceremony of bilateral cooperation documents concerning inter alia the joint constructions of Belt and Road. Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf signed agreements with Chinese counterpart. The Secretary General of the National Discipline Committee, Ms. Zhao Leji, offered a lunch to the President and his delegation. Several high Chinese responsibilities have asked for these lunches. Guo Yishu, Vice Minister's Relations International Party, Lian Weiliang, National Reform Committee, and Wang Binon, Vice Ministers of Commerce, Cheng Xiandong, Foreign Ministers, the IFA Director General, Directorate of Internal Cooperation Committee, Disciplines of Communist Chinese Party. The Secretary of Committee, in a short speech, welcomed the President and his delegation and welcomed the excellent friendship relation between the two countries. Djibouti President Ismail Omar Guelleh participated Sunday at the openings of the ceremony of 2000 International Horticultural Exhibitions in Beijing on the theme Life Green, Life Better. The exhibitions of Beijing brings together 100 countries and international organizations, including Djibouti, who exhibit in a stand to the different Djibouti product and tourist sites known in our country. The President of the Republic visited the various stands in the Djibouti stand, where he was entitled to acquire the towers inside the booth. It should be noted that the Djiboutian president is the only president of Africa and of Arabia to be invited to participate in the opening of the international exhibitions of Beijing. The ambassador of Djibouti to China, Mr. Abdallah Abdullahi Migil, made a brief account of the visit of the President Ismail Omar Guelleh. The participation of the President of Djibouti in the second International Forum on World Trade, Belt and Road was marked by the speech he read in the nostrums of this event. It was also marked by the working meetings he had on the sidelines of this summit with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in the forms of an enlarged working audience. This meeting between the two heads of state took place in the presence of the main collaborators of the two parties. From the Chinese president, the president of Djibouti has also met with several other officials of the countries, including the secretary of the Central Commissions of Control and Disciplines of the Chinese Communist Party, Li Long. As usual, President Guelleh has spent his working times in Beijing to meet with the business community of these friendly countries, including officials and leaders. He said the mayors of companies investing in Djibouti, such as Polygcl, China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, China Railway Construction Corporation Limited. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received in the Hall of Honors of the premature Saudi delegation is led by the undersecretaries, the deputy secretaries of the Ministry of Transport in charge of planning and information of Kingdoms of Saudi Arabia, Yasser Suleiman Al Dawood, introduced by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs International Cooperation, Muhammad Ali Hassan. The meeting was attended by Prime Minister's Cabinet Director Yusuf Awled and Djibouti's ambassador to the Kingdoms of Saudi Arabia, Diaydin Said Bamakrama. The Saudi delegation is staying in Djibouti as part of the launching of the joint Djibouti-Saudi Affairs Commission. The discussion is focused on the ins and outs of this work, as well as ways and means to strengthen and enhance the level of economic trade exchanges between the two countries. The Joint Commission Djibouti-Saudi Commission has closed its proceedings today in the conference rooms of the Institute for Diplomatic Studies. The closing ceremony was chaired by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs International Cooperation, Mohammed Ali Hassan, the head of the Saudi delegation, and the Secretary of the Ministers of Transport, Planning and Information, Yasser Suleiman Al-Daoud, representative from the different ministerial departments of the two countries, as well as ambassadors from both countries participate in the closing session. The two sides discussed for 2 days ways to strengthen fraternal relations between the two countries and develop cooperation in various fields, such as finance, trade, investment, agriculture, customs, transport, energy, renewable energy, housing, and telecommunications, education, health, culture, youth, and sport. In conclusion, the minutes of meetings were signed by the head of the two delegations, namely Mohammed Ali Hassan and the Assistant Ministers of Foreign Affairs and the representative of Saudi Ministry of Transport, Yasser Suleiman Al-Daoud. For his part, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs International Cooperation, Mohammed Ali Hassan, held the result of the meetings of the Joint Djibouti-Saudi Commissions underlining Djibouti's willingness to make progress in promoting joint bilateral work. He added that the work of the Joint Djibouti-Saudi Committee reflects the spirit of fraternity and the strength of the historical relation between the two sister countries, as well as the importance of the concern to develop these relations, also reflecting the orientations of the supreme leadership and aspirations of the two brotherly peoples, he concluded. On the sidelines of its participation in the meetings of the second sessions of the Joint Djibouti-Saudi Commission, the second business forums, the Saudi delegation chaired by Yasser Suleiman Al-Daoud visited yesterday the port of Dorale and the new free zone located at Pika 13. The delegation was accompanied by the administration director of the Ports and Free Zone Authority, Mohammed Adan Sheikh, as well as Mr. Mohammed, Director of Marketing. During the visit, the Saudi delegation was briefed on the advanced infrastructure of Dorale Port and the new free zone. During the visit, the delegation received additional explanations from the port's officials in Dorale. It should be noted that the Saudi delegation included representatives of the various ministerial departments in Saudi Arabia, as well as a group of investors and businessmen, including, among others, Riyad Al-Huraybi, chairman of the Djibouti-Saudi Business Councils, the officials of the two countries, namely Administrative Director at the Authority of Ports and Free Zone, Mohammed Adan Sheikh, the head of the Saudi delegation, Yasser Suleiman Al-Daoud, as well as Riyad Al-Huraybi, chairman of the Djibouti-Saudi Business, have welcomed the strategic locations of the Republic and the advanced infrastructure of Dorale ports and the new free zones of Pika 23. Interior Minister Hassan Umar Mohammed has received this morning in his office Mr. Andres Thompson, country's director and representative of UNFPA office based in Somalia. It was introduced to the ministers by Ms. Aisha Ibrahim, in charge of UNFPA office in Djibouti. During this meeting, the discussion is focused on the follow-up and of the project set up a biometric systems for securing civil status data. Secretary General of the Interior Ministry Siraj Omar Abdul Qadir and ONAH's Executive Secretary Hussein Hassan also attended the interview. As part of a series of meetings with representatives of friendly countries, the minister delegate in charge of decentralization, Hamadou Mohamed Aramis, has received today in his cabinet the ambassador of Turkey, Mr. Selim Levent Shahinkaya. On this occasion, the Minister Aramis present to his interlocutors his department, and his mission is focused mainly on the coordinations and monitoring the activities of sectoral ministries in the region. He referred to the existing disparities between the capital and the interior regions and between the chief towns of interior region, their rural areas in terms of development and basic infrastructure. He then went on to take stocks of activities undertaken, ongoing and planned by his department to meet the expectations of the population and the difficulties they face. He recalled that decentralization is a priority of the head of state Ismail Margele, and the creation by him of a full-fledged ministry in his government at the beginnings of his new mandate at the countries in 2016 bears witnesses to this. The Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, welcomed this morning at Djibouti International Airport the President of CAF, Mr. Ahmed, who was accompanied on his arrival by the President of the Djiboutian Federations of Football, Suleiman Hassan. Several members of the Djiboutian sports were present at this meeting, including the President of the Olympic members, Aisha Garad, and the advisors, inspectors, and director of Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, the member of Djibouti Football Federation. After a short break at the VIP space, the delegation is headed to Djibouti Palace Campeski, where a GS Academy seminar will take place from April 29th to May 3. Upon his arrival at the palace, the delegation was greeted by folk dance and performed in his honor. The GS Academy seminars on Secretaries Generals opened under the patronage of His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, and was attended by the President of the Olympic members, Aisha Garad, President of the CAF, Mr. Ahmed, a representative of the UFA, the President of the Djiboutian Football Federation, Suleiman Hassan, as well as 60 Secretary General of the Francophone area. Beneficiaries of these seminars, the main objective of this seminar is to reinforce the capacity of the Secretary Generals of the Francophone area and subsidiary to create favorable conditions for the sharing of knowledge and best practices aimed at developing and strengthening footballs or the territory. In the opening speech, the president of the FDF, then the representative of the UFA, thanked the CAF for choosing Djibouti and stressed the importance of good collaboration exchanges between technicians. As for the president of CAF, Mr. Ahmed thanked Djibouti for hosting this seminar and organizing it is a very good condition, as he said. He then outlined the responsibilities, difficulties, and prospects of African football. He also stressed that football can contribute to the economic development of African countries. Finally, that the Secretary Generals bring changes to each level. Finally, the Secretary of State, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, emphasized the note of history in reference to the post of Secretary General of the Djiboutian Football Federation he held before becoming Secretary of State. He also recalled the importance of adapting to changes, an essential condition for the promotions of football. He ended his remarks by thanking the CAF President for the choice of Djibouti, land of welcome and meeting. He said, the City Hall of Djibouti organized yesterday mornings in the meeting room of the town hall a collective buffet in honor of mayors of the city, Fatma Awad Osman. Following the brilliant distinction is awarded by the Arab Islamic cities for its main activities in protection and the preservation of the environment for the year 2019, thus allowed to pay tribute to the first magistrate of the city in a moving and warm atmosphere. This ceremony was carefully prepared by all the teams of the municipality of Djibouti to express together their attachment and the professional and human career. Exceptional municipal policy completely turned towards the environment. Indeed, this decoration recalled the sense of general interest, the quality of innovative actions of professional skills, recognized by the Euro-Arab Cooperation Center and the Arab Islamic cities in the environment sector. In his speech, the mayor of the city, Fatuma Awali Osman, first thanks Almaty for giving him courage, strength, and patience, but also to be surrounded by a very good team, dynamic and wonderful in their beautiful achievement, which attracted the attentions of senior officials of Arab Islamic cities. She also expressed her heartfelt thanks to all of her municipal team and affirmed that this merit to the entire teams and must be highlighted all the more because everyone has spent a great deal of time, assiduity, and has made many sacrifices for the realizations of this international recognition. As part of the extensions of the role and missions of the National Tax Conciliation Commission, the delegation of mediator led by its president held a sensitization information meetings in the capital of Dakhel region, headquartered in the capital. The National Commissions aim to expand its conciliation activities to the regions of interior, accompanying the members of delegation, National Tax Conciliation Commission, mediators of the Republic. Dr. Qasim Ishaq Osman chaired the information meetings at the prefectures in the presence of the prefect of the Dakhel region, the main authorities of the regions of unit. The commission is empowered to find a solution to the difference between the administration and the citizens in the tax dispute, customs and domanial. The commission was established by decree of the President of the Republic. In the framework of the popularizations of the role and missions of the Commission, the President of the Commission, the Mediator of the Republic, Dr. Qasim Ishaq Osman, accompanied by his member, began a tours of sensitization to Ali Sabih region and awareness meetings on the role and missions of the National Tax Conciliation Commission is held at the office of the Prefect of the region. Took part in this meeting the Prefect of the region, Muhammad Wabir Asowe, the head of the local elected officials, the centralized services, the created by the National Commissions of Fiscal Conciliation has for objective the resolutions of the difference between the customs and tax administration and the users of public. As part of the World Book Day, Copyright Day, Ilais Gashamal schools organized literary activities such as dance, songs, and theaters. On this occasion, the students of the schools demonstrate the importance of the book as an irreplaceable instrument of creation, knowledge, freedom, and intellectual development activities carried out around the book in class induce implicit influences that will leave indelible trace in the life of each of our students. As we all know, reading is a powerful vehicle for emancipation that strengthens the power of our imaginations, invite us to dream and think at all times, arouses and curiosity, and affirms and shapes our world own identity. For the international scene, this is the second time in a century that the floodgate of Chaudière Dam in Ontario have had to be opened. Listen to the report.
Time in a century that the floodgates of Chaudière Dam in Ontario have had to be opened. Significant spring flooding and the breakup of dike west of Montreal have forced Energy Ottawa to relieve some of the water. Evacuation were ordered in the Canadian capital as the Ottawa River reached record levels, closing one of Ottawa's bridges to the hard-hit Quebec city of Gatineau. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that the federal government will help the affected provinces rebuild and emphasized the urgency to further accelerate the fight against climate change. More than 1,700 military personnel have been deployed in Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick to assist with evacuations. The state of emergency has been extended to Montreal until at least Thursday.
After a week, the bloody jihadist attacks on Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena announced on Sunday the ban of Islamic veils covering face. Listen to the report.
To the bloody jihadist attacks on Sudan, Sri Lanka President Maithripala Sirisena announced on Sunday the ban on Islamic veils covering the face, April 28. The ban is aimed at ensuring national security and no one should hide their face to complicate their identification, said a statement from the presidency. This measure taken by the head of state who uses exceptional powers will enter into force from Monday. The text continues. It comes on the heels of a call from local Muslim clerics to Muslim women urging them not to cover their faces for fear of hostile reaction after the attacks claimed by the Islamic State organization, which killed 253 people. Muslims in this country of 2.1 million inhabitants, mostly Buddhist, represent about 10% of the population. Most Sri Lankan Muslims are quite liberal and only a small number of women wear the niqab.
The Spanish Socialist Party of outgoing head of government Pedro Sanchez dropped the legislative elections on Sunday without having an absolute majority in the parliament. Listen to the report.
The party of outgoing head of government Pedro Sanchez topped the legislative election on Sunday, April 28, without having an absolute majority in the parliament, according to the county of more than 95% of the ballot. The PSOE would get 122 seats of deputies out of the 350 that count the court generals, and Podemos' far left would land 42. So even an alliance between these two parties will not exceed the threshold of 176 seats, synonymous with absolute majority. The People's Party would get 65 seats, a real electoral tumble to centrist party Ciudadanos, 57 seats, and Vox will be 24. So this is the first time since the return the democracy that an external right-wing force will send members of parliament.
This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us.